Disrupted two relationships at a youth watch party by unintentionally revealing male stripper secrets, igniting chaos and suspicion. This past weekend I went to a UFC fight watch party with this girl I've been talking to for a couple of weeks. Let's call her P. We went to high school together 10 years ago, but didn't really talk that much during that time. But P and I had many mutual friends. We got reacquainted a couple of weeks ago and have hung out a few times since. Well, like I had stated before, back in high school, we had a lot of mutual friends. And a lot of those friends, P still is pretty close to till this day. And the vast majority of them, I haven't spoken to in about a decade. So pretty much since high school. After I graduated I left the state to play college football. And I didn't really come back home that often when I was in college. So I only kept in touch with my very close group of friends from back home. So there is a lot of people who I was pretty good friends with in high school, still have on social media, still wish the best for them, but have not seen and or spoken to in about a decade. I say that to say, P had asked me if I could come with her to the watch party the day before the party. I like to watch fights with my friends and her family, so I was going to say no. Especially since she said the host house belonged to one of her friends, who I didn't know, but then she told me that that friend was the wife of a guy I was friends with in high school and hadn't seen in a long time. She said she let them know that we had been seeing each other and they told her that she better bring me. Then she names other people who would be going. A lot of names of people I hadn't seen since high school and used to be pretty cool with. So that convinced me to go. I'm usually pretty introverted in houses I don't know, but when we showed up to the house, I saw a lot of people I knew. So since I was familiar with a lot of them, that introverted feeling immediately went away and I felt really comfortable and really enjoyed watching the fight with them, drinking, and catching up. The night was going really well. I was having fun. P is having fun. All vibes are good, until the incident. I was inside the house having a conversation. Then I noticed P was outside amongst a group of people out there sitting and talking. So I decided to go join. I walk out there and grab a chair. They are in the middle of a conversation, but I'm not even paying attention to what they are saying. I am just paying attention to grabbing the chair and placing it next to P so I can sit. There's about 15 people in this circle. I only knew about maybe half of the people in this group. As I'm about up sit down, the first words that I actually hear in this conversation was someone say something like "Don't worry, most male strippers are homosexual." I did not know any of the context of the conversation. But when I heard that I instantly responded with something like "No, they are not. They be having sex with so many of the girls." After saying that I instantly went into why I know this. I have an older brother who is 5 years older. He had a best friend who was a really muscular dude who did male stripping for a little after they graduated high school. Let's call him M. M was a pretty popular male stripper from what I heard. I know he was once featured in a pretty popular magazine. He was well known in my city even before the stripping. M went to my high school too, but before I went there. And I didn't think anyone there would know who he is besides a guy that was there who I was close to in high school. Let's call him X. X came over to my house a lot back in high school and he met M a couple of times. Well, M did a lot of bachelorette parties, and he would always tell me about it. And sometimes X when he was there. M often said that if he ever got married, his girl would never be allowed to have male strippers at her bachelorette party. M said that at least 85% of the parties he does, the bride-to-be cheats. Often with multiple men. M said it was really rare that the bride-to-be didn't cheat to at least some degree. And he had proof of these claims with pictures/videos on his phone. And would not hesitate to show us. He said because of that, he would never allow it because he knows how it goes. I explained all of this to the group and even had X come outside to confirm that that's what M told us and showed us proof. After I finished talking, it was quiet for a moment and about 3 people walked off, none of which I knew personally. And it suddenly felt awkward. I didn't understand. Then P started telling me that prior to me sitting down, they were trying to make one of the guys in the circle feel better. Let's call the guy H. H was going to get married the next month. Him and his fiancée were going to do their bachelor/bachelorette parties a week apart. H's fiancée was currently on her bachelorette weekend in another city. And H was aware that they were going to have male strippers come to their Airbnb at some point. H had told them that initially he didn't care and wanted her to enjoy it, but had started becoming insecure about it. So the group was in the middle of trying to comfort him prior to me sitting down. I was not aware of any of this until after. I felt a little bad, but I also felt like I didn't tell a lie. Everything I said was from a direct source that lived it. But I do get I shouldn't have said it right there and I most likely wouldn't have if I knew the context of the conversation prior to sitting down. H was one of the 3 people who left the group after I spoke about what M and told me and X. The other 2 people that walked off, I didn't know them. It was a couple. And they are older than me. Well, turns out they also attended my high school and are about 6 years older. And have been together since high school and got married shortly after. Both of them knew who M was. Turns out the girl had a bachelorette party, with male strippers coming to a house for her, and M was one of them. And her man knew that he was one of the strippers and at the time found it funny because they didn't think one of the strippers would be someone they went to school with. Apparently at the time they both laughed about it, and the girl claimed she didn't get a dance from him because when he tried, she couldn't stop laughing. Well, after hearing what I said, apparently the dude got angry. Especially since I said M often provided proof to those claims, and had showed me an X. So that couple walked off and started arguing inside. I could see that were arguing through the glass door, but we didn't know it was because of what I said initially. But after I found out, I thought it would be better for me to leave. And it was already getting late, so me and P left. She was mad at me and told me I shouldn't have said all that. After that night I asked about 12 of the people that were there individually if they thought I was in this situation. I asked both men and women. It's literally split in half. Some say yes, others say no. And some of the people who I didn't know there are pretty angry at me. Including all 3 that walked off. And to make matters worse, I spoke to M about what happened. I hadn't talked to him a long time. He lives outside of the state. But I have him on social media. I told him the story, knowing he would find it funny. After I told, M said he knew who the woman was. He said he only did one bachelorette party for someone he went to high school with. He proceeds to say her name correctly and describe her correctly. And then gives me details about that party. She clearly lied to her husband. And definitely contributed to that 85% stat. He even said he might still have video of that night on an old phone. But I'm not going to say anything about it anymore. I do not want to get involved. I don't know either of them and have no obligation to interfere in that relationship at all. Especially more than I already have. So am I the in this situation? How would y'all have handled this? Edit, the reason I said 2 relationships is because apparently H was really impacted with what I said. And also apparently seen/heard some suspicious things about the trip. What he saw or heard, I do not know. P was the one telling me and she didn't know either. And due to this, the wedding might be off. Some of them think I made him paranoid and to blame for this. Update 1, well I actually have an update on both of these couples. Both are bad. But I'll start with the lighter one first. H did end up calling off the wedding. So apparently the stuff I said about the male strippers did really mess with his head and made him start digging for stuff. I guess he went through his girl's phone without her knowing when she got back from her weekend, which apparently prior to this is something he has never done. His girl had a second Snapchat account that he didn't know about. Guess she didn't log out of it before H went through it. Apparently the only chat on it was a group chat with her friends. But on that snap she had a bunch of older sex tapes saved. And she had a bunch of videos saved in the group chat from their weekend. And the videos showed her not only hooking up with a male stripper, but also had her hooking up with at least 2 other men during bachelorette party weekend. Apparently he also was able to read chats where she said something along the lines of her feeling bad about how crazy she went that weekend, but she is glad she got to get her last urges out and is now ready to settle into her married life. He called off the wedding and all that. So in this case, I'm glad Duke heard what I said because I saved him. His girl went to another city and really got her shit off. So good thing he caught that before making it official. Now to the married couple. I didn't name them last time but I will here just to tell the story better. I know some of y'all didn't like the letters for names, so I'll name them John and Amy, not their real names. So the night from the original post where I told the story, I know some said that I should have read the room and all that. Not only was it hard because it was dark out and I had been drinking, but I also had people there asking questions and giving input in the middle of telling it, so I didn't get an indication about me doing too much at the time. John was one of the people who asked me a couple of questions. So John and Amy were lapped up when they were sitting out there. Amy sitting on John of course. Apparently when I started going into describing M in the middle of my story and I said his real life name, John felt Amy start to tense up and feel uncomfortable. M's real name is pretty unique. In America at least. I've never seen anyone else with that name, so when I said it, it was very clear who I was talking about. And like I said, they went to high school with him and both knew who he was, which I knew nothing of at that point. And John knew Amy had M as a male stripper at her party. Well I guess the more detailed and graphic I got about what M told me, in terms of the sexual acts, how rare it was that it didn't happen, and that he often recorded everything, the more uncomfortable John felt Amy getting. That had John get really suspicious and that's where he asked me a couple of questions in the middle of my story. I forgot what he asked. But it was nothing crazy. I think one of them was did M send me the videos or just show me on his phone? Which he only showed me on his phone. I'm guessing Amy continued to get more uncomfortable and he felt it and got really suspicious, and that's where he walked off. Then the other 2 walked off also. So now fast forward to this past week. This is how I heard it played out. I don't know John or Amy. I know John's younger brother, but I haven't spoken to him since the day I asked him if I was off for telling that story to them, which he said I wasn't. P talks to John's brother but also is close with that group of friends. That is her close friends. I got this info from P, which is info that was regurgitated within the group. So I'm not sure on the accuracy of how it all played out, but I would guess it's pretty high, but the actual incident itself did happen 100%. I know because it's documented now. John and Amy argued inside the house and I'm guessing all the way home. Amy assured John that nothing happened with M or any of the other male strippers there. She also stayed with the story that she only got a partial lap dance from M, but had to stop because she couldn't stop laughing. Apparently John didn't fully buy it and came up with a plan to make her admit it. Earlier this week John confronted Amy about it again, but this time stated that he knew the facts already so for her to come clean and be honest with him. John told Amy that he had been in contact with me and I also put him in contact with M, and from that he knew the entire story and that M still had the evidence. I can confirm that neither me or M have spoken to him. I haven't spoken to him since that night. M said he's never spoken to dude in his life, so I guess Amy felt like she was caught and admitted to everything. She told John that she fucked M that night. This made John snap. He beat her. Beat her bad. She ended up going to the hospital. I believe she's still in the hospital today. And apparently the only thing that made him stop was his kids running in the room and attempting to shield their mom. John of course was arrested. Charged him with attempted murder and a few other charges, so you can see it was a pretty severe incident of abuse. In his mugshot that they posted online, he has visible scratches, bumps, and bruises on his face, so I guess they were fighting hard before he overpowered her. I don't know why John said he had spoken to me. Maybe he knew that would work and get her to admit it. As far as I know, no one has seen this Reddit post from that night. P knows about it now, but I showed her after the fact when she was telling me about all this that I'm posting. She thinks that John might have seen the post and knew she did it, so came up with a way to make her admit it. But P says that she's never used Reddit, and has never heard any of the people in that friend group talk about using Reddit. But she also doesn't really know John and Amy. So I guess it is possible that John saw my original post. I'm not sure. But P said she's not going to tell anyone about the post. So yeah, that's the updates. I didn't feel like an before, but now I really do. I didn't want to lead to anyone getting beat, getting hospitalized, and getting arrested. I really do feel like shit about the whole situation now. Update 2. After H called off the wedding, things between him and his ex-fiancée got insanely ugly. She did not take it well at all. At first, she tried love bombing him, crying, apologizing, saying it was just a one-time mistake and that she was just getting it out of her system. She begged for another chance, swearing it meant nothing and that she only wanted to be with him. But H wasn't budging. Then she completely flipped the script. She started blaming him, saying he violated her privacy by going through her phone and that his insecurities ruined their future together. She told mutual friends that he was controlling and had serious trust issues. But that didn't work either, because, there was video proof of her getting absolutely railed by multiple dudes at her bachelorette party. So trying to turn herself into the victim wasn't really landing. At this point, she got desperate. And I mean next level desperate. Apparently, she tried to spin the situation by saying she was too drunk to consent that weekend and that what happened to her was SA. She went as far as threatening to go to the police and press charges against the strippers. H, being the decent dude that he is, actually felt conflicted and considered that maybe she was telling the truth. Until her own bridesmaids called BS on her story. Turns out, the women who were at the party weren't on her side. Some of them had already felt weird about how far things went, and they knew she was lying about being too drunk. She was actively bragging about it in the group chat, talking about how she had to get it out of her system before getting locked down. Her own best friends turned against her when she tried to make false accusations. Now, almost everyone in their mutual friend group has cut her off, and she's gone full scorched earth. She's been airing out all of H's personal business online, calling him a misogynist and accusing him of being abusive, which is completely false. She even tried to get him fired from his job by contacting his employer and saying he was harassing her. Luckily, it didn't work, but yeah. Absolute chaos. H is doing alright, considering everything, but he's still dealing with a ton of stress. He told me he's just grateful he found out before the wedding and didn't end up marrying her. But man, what a disaster. John and Amy, the fallout now, onto the situation that's been haunting me, John and Amy. As I mentioned before, John snapped and brutally beat Amy after she admitted to cheating with M at her bachelorette party all those years ago. Well, since my last update, things have gone even further south. First off, Amy is pressing full charges, and John is screwed. He's facing multiple felony charges, including attempted murder, aggravated assault, and domestic battery. His bail was set insanely high, and from what I heard, he's not getting out anytime soon. Now, this is where it gets really insane. Amy's family is going after him hard. They're not just pressing charges, they're also filing a lawsuit for damages, including emotional distress for the kids, since they saw the attack. And since there were hospital records, police reports, and clear physical evidence, it's pretty much a slam dunk case. But here's where things get even crazier. John's family is trying to claim temporary custody of their kids because they don't think Amy is fit to raise them. They're using her cheating and past behavior as evidence that she's an unfit mother. They're saying that because she was out there having wild nights with male strippers while engaged, she's a bad influence on her kids. From what P told me, it's turning into a full-blown legal war between both families. And somehow, my name has now come up in the drama. How I got dragged into the mess apparently, some of John's family members think I played a role in ruining their marriage. They claim that if I had never told that story at the fight party, John never would have suspected Amy, never would have confronted her, and never would have attacked her. I've been getting nasty messages from some of their relatives, saying I should have kept my mouth shut, that I destroyed a family, and that I have blood on my hands. They're even talking about suing me for emotional damages, which is insane because I didn't even accuse anyone of anything. I just shared something I heard years ago. Meanwhile, Amy's side hates me too. Some of her friends are saying that my story was reckless and that I put her in danger by making John suspicious. They say I should have known better than to bring that up in a group setting, especially when alcohol was involved. I genuinely never meant for any of this to happen. I feel horrible that Amy got beat, even though she cheated. No one deserves to go through that, but at the same time, I still don't think I was wrong for what I said that night. It was just an unfortunate chain reaction of events that spiraled way out of control. P and I, where we stand now, P and I have also been affected by all this. She's been catching heat from people in her friend group for bringing me around that night. Some people blame her for me being there at all. She's also been super stressed out dealing with the fallout, and we've been arguing a lot more lately. She's mad that I even went back to M and got more details after the fact, even though I never told anyone. To be honest, this whole situation has put a huge strain on our relationship. It's not the same anymore. She says she's exhausted from all the drama and that I should have just let things go. She's not saying we should break up, but it feels like we're heading in that direction. Now on to second story. Wife refuses to meet her estranged son's fiancé despite her reaching out, and now she's spiraling into despair. I, 32 male, met my wife Aisha, 38F, 9 years ago on the beach in a country where I got a co-op job at a software development company. I won't lie, I was an overconfident kid who approached her even though she was clearly married and there with friends in a country where things could have gone really wrong. Honestly, she was just so beautiful and had an amazing body, and maybe I was wrong, but I did go for her. I only found out months after things developed between us that the only reason she let them was to use me to escape from her husband. And it made sense because she only let things get physical after she learned I would move back home to Canada once my co-op ended. She came to Canada with me under the pretense of visiting her aunt and pursued the process of seeking asylum due to DV, and she stayed with me because she felt safe. Long story short, we've been married for a while now and we've been talking about kids, and she wants them. I want them and my parents want them. We were finally about to start trying, except a situation with her son Zafar, 20 meters, from her first marriage has come up. She has not seen Zafar in person since she left and hasn't talked to him in about 5 years. Anyway, he's getting married in August, and even though he hasn't reached out to Aisha at all, his fiancée, a girl named Alina, has and wants to meet her when she visits family in Canada at the end of the month. The idea of meeting Alina has made my wife spiral. She absolutely refuses to even consider the idea of meeting with this girl. She will not go anywhere except work, she won't let me touch her, and she's barely talking. Yesterday, I found Aisha literally holding a framed photo of Zafar in bed and just crying. I know she has regrets and I know she hates the way that she left his father, but she would have been killed had she stayed with him. I told her again yesterday that it wouldn't hurt to at least meet the girl and I'd go with her if she needed, and she just yelled at me and said I was being an asshole about it and that part of her life is over and she just needs to accept it. Update 1. I didn't want to update, but the truth is I don't have anyone to talk to and just thought this might help. The first is that I let the matter lie at first. I figured that maybe we'd get back to it around the time that my wife's future daughter-in-law Alina actually came to Canada. I mean, there's no point in stressing my wife out about it right now. And that did help. A week ago, we found out that my wife Aisha is pregnant and we are both over the moon about it. I mean, we wanted to start trying but didn't know it already happened. Something I didn't mention in my last post is that my wife feels guilt over me. There is an age gap between us and we got together when I was barely an adult. To me, I don't see anything wrong with it because I initiated things no matter how dangerous that could have turned out for me. I pursued her. To her, though, she feels often that she used me and she used the attraction I had to her to escape, and it was wrong of us to take things farther. But I don't feel that way, and honestly I think she has no reason to feel guilty. When we found out she was pregnant, she told me that for the first time she feels like this was meant to be. It actually made me forget about Alina, and 4 days ago when Aisha and I came home from work, it turns out that she came to visit with her aunt and my mother let them in. I was a bit worried that Aisha was going to panic or have a breakdown, but she was actually really calm and composed, and when Alina called her Umi, Arabic for mother, she got such a big smile on her face. I know it was genuine too because I don't think that she expected that kind of respect. It turns out that Zafar sent Alina to give my wife an invite to their wedding, and the only reason he didn't come himself is because he's very busy with work, but that he's planning on coming with her again in August to do wedding shopping. Apparently Zafar is so busy because he's taking over the family business because his father's had a stroke and all of his other half-siblings are 10 and under, so it's on him. When Alina's aunt left to take her kids somewhere, she had a conversation with my wife about her ex-husband. It turns out that Zafar really is not treating him well at all, no matter how much his stepmother or aunts or even his half-siblings argue with him. According to Alina, he's the calmest and nicest and sweetest person unless the topic turns to his father, and nobody can convince him to treat him better. Like she told my wife that he has so much hate for him that he once said that the only reason he hates that the stroke happened is that now he can't kill him. He even threatened once to bar his half-siblings from attending his wedding and the reception because his stepmother tried to get him to do better by his father. My wife had Alina tell her the things that her ex-husband did to Zafar even though she didn't want to, and I won't say them because I just can't imagine somebody doing that stuff to their own child. Alina asked if my wife could talk to Zafar because she doesn't want him so filled with hate even if his father does deserve it for torturing him for his entire life. My wife told Alina that she doesn't feel she can talk to her son on the phone after so long, and when he comes, he'll stay with us and she will talk to him about it then, and that she'll convince him for her. Alina left with her aunt soon after, and it's weird because even though my wife told Alina that when we were alone at night she told me that she's happy that Safar's doing that and that his father deserves it. She cried a lot that night and told me she'd be forgiving if it was just her that was hurt by her ex-husband, but that she can't stand that her son had to suffer so much under him and hopes that her ex-husband keeps reaping what he sowed. I admitted that seemed wrong to say, but she told me I'd understand when our son is born, and now I don't know why she's so certain it'll be a boy, but hey. Alina's flight home is today and my wife is the one dropping her off, and in fact they were inseparable for the last few days. My wife spent hours talking with her and just learning about her studies and about her relationship with Zafar. She loves that girl so much already, except every time before she went to meet her she had a mini panic attack almost. I asked about it, but she just said that it's like she has a daughter and it's a good dream and she's worried she's going to wake up. She even said maybe it would have been better if she had been allowed to move on because she's so afraid of getting hurt again.